This short video will take us through the functionality of the AR or Accounts Receivable Integrator for Oracle Cloud. Once installed, you're presented with the More4apps ribbon, and this is the ribbon we'll use in terms of the production process. First step in the exercise is to log on, and we're just going to use our standard Oracle credentials here, so that will respect any security setups that you currently have within Oracle. And then once we have logged on, the next step is to create a worksheet. So if you have an existing workbook with worksheets, then you can copy an active sheet and tailor that further for your requirements, or indeed create a new sheet. And in this case we'll select the finance module, and the integrator is Receivable Invoices, and then essentially we can go through and create that sheet. Once created, you can now see that we have every available column, and bear in mind a column correlates back to a field within Oracle Cloud. So we have quite a number of columns because they're all available in terms of this particular sheet. So you can see the attributes, the attachments, the lines, the tax distributions, etc. So what we do from here is to tailor the sheet to your requirements. So you're not going to need all the columns, obviously. So what we can do is quite simply select the columns you don't require, and the preferred option is to delete those out of the workbook, or indeed you could hide them. We could also cut or copy and paste the columns into a different order if it suits your production needs a little better. So once we've tailored it, and as we can see here in my cut down sheet, you can see that these are only the columns that I require for production purposes. A couple of points to note with regard to the worksheet itself. The greyed out areas is for system messaging, so we'll get some feedback in terms of the process as we go through the production process. Row 10 is an important row. That's our default row, so any value that we have in here that I've put in here will be reflected against each of the rows in terms of creating the receivables invoices. So you can see here we've got the header action, we've got dates, and in this case the dates is a formula, and then we've got some other detail here. So this obviously will save you the effort of typing this against each of the rows. It will automatically default. If you did have a value against a particular row or a particular invoice, then it won't override it with the default value. It will respect the value that you have. The clear cells are for data entry purposes, so if indeed you know the data, you can type it directly into the clear cells. However, if you do have master data where you have data existing in maybe it's a separate Excel spreadsheet, or indeed one that you've incorporated within the workbook, then essentially you can go through, you can copy those values, and we can then paste them into the sheet, paste the values into the sheet, and as you can see, the important factor here is to ensure that the columns that you have within your master data sheet correlate back to the columns within the workbook sheet. So once we have those aligned, it is very quick and easy to copy those values directly into the sheet, and then we can go through and we could validate the data within the sheet as a separate task to uploading and creating the accounts receivable invoices. So we could do that as a first step, and it may be useful in terms of demarcation of duties, having someone do the data entry and the validation of the data, as opposed to someone that will then upload and create in Oracle. However, if you choose not to do the validation in the first instance, you can go through and do the upload either of the selected rows or indeed all that are on the sheet and that will do the validation process in the first instance, and then it will do the creation. So we'll go upload selected as they're selected currently. You can see those defaults have now come in terms of create, the dates, manual and invoice, and it will now go through and do that validation and upload. So here's our validation process finished. It is now doing the upload, and you can see that in terms of the feedback, we have purposely introduced a number of errors just to show that the error handling. So as we can see here, we've got the bill to site does not exist. So essentially we could use the data form to fix that, or we could copy and paste the value directly in. So we use the form to correct that data. So here's the data form. Now the data forms have all that functionality in terms of the drop-down lists, the list of values. It has the ability to search, so we can basically do the wildcard search, or if we've got a list of values, then we can select the list of value. Once we've tabbed off that, it will then validate the bill to contact in this particular case. And in the case of the date fields, we do have the date picker available to you. So you can see within the form we have the header, the customer, payment, miscellaneous and freight in this particular case, which is the header form. So we press OK to that, and then we have a look at our other issue, and we can just basically take that value immediate, copy it into there, and now what we can do is look to upload just those selected records. So quick and easy process in terms of correcting the data. We can also use the data form for entering data that's in the first instance. So once again we could use this, we could do a search for the business unit, select the business unit, etc, etc. You can see the default values of coming through to the form already populated, and as we go through this process it will validate that data as we enter the data into the form. So there is the data. So we've used our master data, and we've now created the half a dozen or so receipts within Oracle. Now the other I guess powerful feature is the download capability. So if we were to look to download that particular receipt that we've just created, we can then use the download capability. So we can use the form, or we can use the sheet. In this case we'll go directly to the sheet, and as you can see here, that's the one we've just created, and all the detail is now in the sheet. So we can use the download capability to create, or use as a base to create further accounts receivable invoices by perhaps changing the dates to the following month, etc, etc. So we could just basically take out the value in terms of the number, make those changes, and go through and do our upload process again, and that will then create the new accounts receivable invoice based on that data. So if we go back to our full sheet, you can see here I've pre-populated some data in terms of the full sheet. So there's a lot more data in there. Also in this sheet we've got the attachments. So we've got a text attachment and a file attachment, and we've got all the other detail. So basically one could then go through and do that same process. We'll upload all on the sheet, and it will go through the validation and upload process. And as we can see, those accounts receivable invoices have been created and we can see that the header attachment status has been accepted. So that concludes the high-level video of the Accounts Receivable Integrator from More4apps for Oracle Cloud.